Hello everyone, Elite 4Yo here. Before we begin, please be sure to like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. But today we are going to focus on the big alt art boom that is currently happening in the Pokemon market. So I'm looking here at TCG Player just because it has the easiest way of kind of showcasing all the information that I'm going to be covering today. I have it sorted by high to low, so if I scroll down here, you'll see the highest price points for these alt art cards, and then it'll go in descending order from there. However, I'm not going to focus on any of the older alt art cards. For instance, if you look at the first row here, the Latios and Latias, that's Sun and Moon. Over here, the Gengar and Mimikyu, that's also Sun and Moon. Instead, I'm focusing on the Sword and Shield alt art specifically, because there are rumblings that we may be getting closer to the end of production, of distribution for the Sword and Shield sets. So the question becomes, is now the time to get in, invest, try to acquire some of these alt arts while the Sword and Shield cards are still available? So let's take a look at the biggest one right here, that Giratina in Lost Origin. Scrolling down here, take a look at our 3-month graph. Seeing here back in about mid-February, hitting around that 250 mark, and 3 months later, look at that, almost $500 now. So looking 258, that's what it was 3 months ago, at about 470 plus right now. A huge increase. So that's just one example. Continuing on here, we look at the Lugia. It's probably the other big one outside of the Evolving Skies alt arts. And look at the Lugia, basically the same action there. 3 months ago, sitting at about 120, 121, and now it has hit over $200. So not as much of an increase there over the Giratina, but predictably, I guess, the Evolving Skies alt arts continue to skyrocket. Evolving Skies is really going to go down as a all-time set. Take a look at the Umbreon. I covered this in my last video on here. This has been one of the bigger surprise ones because of how much it's jumped up in value. 3 months, we're looking at $88, $89, and now we're sitting almost at $200. Huge increase. A better investment, in my opinion, than, say, the Giratina, simply because the buy-in price was so much lower initially 3 months ago, right? I mean, 3 months ago, Giratina at 258. That Umbreon was sitting at about 90. So you're getting a pretty similar percentage increase over time, but a lower buy-in on that Umbreon card. You know, I touched upon this in my last video, but the basic fact is Umbreon is a top 5 Pokemon now, or maybe always has been, I guess, but a huge investment card. You know, that's just the way it is. So the Umbreon market skyrocketing in that last video I showed you. But continuing down here, we have the Charizard alt art from Brilliant Stars, and predictably doing the same upward trajectory action, sitting at a touch under 120 3 months ago, and now getting close to that 200 mark. So not as much of an increase there, but an increase nonetheless. And you keep going down, and this is pretty much what we're seeing at every avenue. Look at the Dragonite, sitting at a touch under $100, and now it's nearing 200, sitting around that 180 to 190 mark. But it shows it here, it's flatlined a little bit for whatever reason, but no reason to think that won't continue to improve and grow as we continue to watch the market on here. Even some other Pokemon that are not, we'll say, typical favorites, like a Galarian Moltres, right? Kind of an interesting one, sitting here 3 months ago just a touch below 130, and now approaching 180 over 3 months. That's a good increase. If I scroll down here, you're kind of seeing the same sort of action for many of these alt arts. It's not even just specific to the Evolving Skies ones. Look at the battle styles. Tyranitar V right here. Same thing is happening, hovering around that 90 to 100 mark, and climbing past 150 now 3 months later. We take a look at let's take a look at let's see. We'll take a look at this Espeon here. to this Espeon Evolving Skies. The basic fact is anything in this Evolving Skies that's an alt art or a popular Pokemon is going to be going up in price as the booster boxes are becoming more and more scarce, as it's harder, obviously, to get any product that actually has the Evolving Skies packs in it, though they are still available. You can get some of those evolution tins, some of the what do they call them? The power box things. I think sometimes those have Evolving Skies in them. I think one of my previous videos I showed that. But to get back to this, taking a look at the Espeon here 3 months ago, sitting touch under 70, and now approaching about 110 in 3 months. So what type of conclusion can we draw here? This is just some of my own opinion. I'm personally not investing in any of these. I still think that sealed product is probably king. However, if we look at the top cards, right, you look at the Giratina, the Lugia, the Umbreon V alt art right here, it's kind of hard to get in on those now. I'm just trying to look at it at like a affordability level. I mean, if the buy-in price now is over $200 for the Lugia, it's probably too late to get in on that, right? If I go to the Giratina, I mean, unless you are really confident that it's going to soar past 500, then maybe you would consider investing in at that sub 500 mark where it currently sits right now. But that is a huge buy-in, huge buy-in. You're hoping that the past 3 months continue over the next 3 months, and you have to invest a pretty penny into it. My feeling, therefore, is a bit more conservative. I'm thinking, well, maybe we hold off a bit on the bigger ones and focus on some of the smaller alt arts, like maybe the Beedrill, for example. Look at the Beedrills. It 3 months ago was $20. Now it's just about 50. That's really good, right? That's more than doubling in value. A smaller scale investment, but more affordable for people, and certainly, probably more speculatory simply because it's not as much of a popular Pokemon, obviously. So there is more inherent risk, but the risk is mitigated by the lower investment buy-in for that card. Take a look at the Celebi right here in Fusion Strike. Still 24. This one's kind of, it went a little over double, but it's kind of going a little up and down roller coaster reaction right there. But still a lower buy-in price. So what I'm saying is that if, for example, you had like $500 to invest in alt arts now, while over the last 3 months we've seen huge gains and increase, then the decision is, do you want to spend it on one card, say this Giratina, because $500 would probably get you a Giratina V alt art here from Lost Origin, or do you want to diversify that investment across smaller ones? So I'm scrolling down here, you can get a Rayquaza right here from Evolving Skies, probably for about $150. And look, that was sitting at $70 3 months ago. Now it's about $150, so it's a little more than doubled. So are you more comfortable diversifying to cover your bases a little bit by, instead of focusing on one alt art for approximately 500, get 3 to 5 in that different range? Take a look at the Machamp here from Astral Radiance. Same sort of movement. I mean, this is pretty it's obvious at this point, right? Sitting at about $80 3 months ago, and now jumping to almost $160. So that's almost a doubling rate in 3 months. And to double your investment in 3 months, if you trust that continued growth is going to continue, or at very least stay in the future, then yeah, that's going to be a pretty good investment. So you certainly have options. If you don't have $500 to just throw down on alt arts, maybe you have $100. Let's take a look at some of the $100 investments. Take a look at the Dragonite. This one, Melison's a little more expensive because it's sitting at about 184. So let's try something else. I'm just looking here at what might be a hot pick. You know, in my opinion, is you really can't go wrong with Evolving Skies. If I had $100 to invest right now, I would probably choose one of either this Espeon, this Glaceon, which I'm personally looking at myself just because I love Glaceon, the Sylveon, or the Leafeon. If each of these are around 85 to $100, that's a pretty interesting investment to make, I think, for $100. Look at the Sylveon going up, 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 same thing. You know, $56 3 months ago, about 84 now. So if you're investing $100, a 30% or so increase over the last 3 months, that's awesome. If that continues, that's great, right? So that's a piece that you can look at if you're looking to invest, something around there, and you don't want to splurge and throw, a couple $100 at one of these products. The point I'm trying to make is that every single alt art right now is going up. I don't know how many examples there are. I mean, if I go to the third page here, see if there's any sword and shield alt arts. We'll look at this Genesect. I guess we'll look at the Genesect. Look, the Genesect. 3 months ago, about $12, $15. And even that's very marginally going up $5, $10. I'm actually kind of surprised that this one isn't higher. If I scroll down here to see near mint, yeah, it's about $20. So even the cheaper alt arts are going up. This Luminion, this one is just all up and down. I mean, just to explain, when you see the price at like $12, goes up to 15, goes down to 13, goes up to 16, that's kind of irrelevant. So basically, I guess what we're seeing on here is maybe stay away from the really cheap alt arts from the Sword and Shield sets and focus on something in the $85+ range to get a bigger bang for your buck. If I look at $50 investment, yeah, we looked at the Beedrill a little bit there. Let's look at this Origin Form Palkia here. Still going up, $30 3 months ago, sitting at about 45 now. So, obviously the more you invest, the more percentage you're trying to look at of an increase, and that's seen nowhere more than the Giratina. It's just a question of, do you want to put all your eggs in one basket and throw down a ton of money in one card? But look, I mean, going from 250 to 470, that's a huge jump. So options certainly exist here. Bottom line, alt arts, booming, booming, booming market for the Sword and Shield era. Maybe for a variety of reasons. If I look at we'll just look at the Sun and Moon ones just for fun. We'll look at this Gengar one right here. Look at that. Look at this weird action here. Looking at 270 or so, dropped down about $10, and now it's rising a little bit, $20 there. So not the same sort of movement on the Sun and Moon cards. So that's why I wanted to focus more on the Sword and Shield to get a better idea of exactly what we are seeing in the alt art market. But if you're not interested in going in sealed product for your investment angle, which I wouldn't recommend, because I wouldn't recommend not doing that. That's what I'm saying, because the common logic now is that sealed product is king. But if you're interested instead on looking at these alt arts as an alternative investment, as a terrible pun, I apologize, then you have options available. I think this Umbreon right here is really an interesting card. I mean, sub 100, now approaching $200 in 3 months. That's wow. There's a lot of factors that go into why this might be happening. Maybe there's more scarcity because the Sword and Shield product is starting to leave shelves, if that is what's happening, and it's not being distributed as much. Maybe there is some of that market manipulation. Kind of hard to say, but whatever the case is, certainly if you can get a 30, we'll even say lower, a 20 to 30% plus increase on an investment over 3 months in a Pokemon card, yeah, that's awesome. If you're trying to invest and then flip it over 3 months, great. If you're trying to buy in now and hold for the long term, yeah. So take a look here at this Glaceon V, just to give you a little insight into what my personal favorite alt art card is. I love Glaceon, love this card. I think it's really, really cool. And if you look at it here, I would have jumped all over this at $50, $55 3 months ago. And now it's approaching the $100 mark on eBay. I commonly see it now for $100. Raw, maybe 90 to $100. So if you could have gotten that at half value 3 months ago, I mean, that was a great foresight on that one. All right, that's my wrap here on the alt art market booming, just to show you some of the cards on here. Certainly other examples. I just looked at the alt art cards specifically for Sword and Shield, just to take a look at the kind of market, especially as more of the Scarlet and Violet sets are released and taking up the shelf space here. You're going to see less and less of this Sword and Shield product. So you got to make that call. Are you going to buy some of those boxes? You know, whether it's, we'll say, Lost Origin or Fusion Strike. So probably your best bets, but obviously the best of them all is going to be Evolving Skies, which for most of us is going to be out of your price range now as it soars past, you know, what was it, 1,000 plus. So in any case, I'm Elite Forio here. Thank you for tuning in for my little update on Alt Art Market. Please like and subscribe. I would greatly appreciate it. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.